What I love the most about your book, right, is that you illuminate a blueprint. You go back and get a story that was in many ways obscure, right? Like the majority of us have heard of Shirley Chisholm, and we know that, you know, she was trying to be president. We know all the things, right? You kind of zoomed in, right, after talking to Congresswoman Barbara Lee, on a particular story about a party. She kind of notes this party, right? And you kind of decide to dig in there.
It wasn't originally what I was supposed to write about.
This is the Black woman in all our glory, the original people who could fly.
And when people talk about Black people, we find that the conversation is normally around Black men.
I think the underlying premise here is no one besides Trump is working to undermine our democracy. Every single vote should be counted.
The thing that struck me about Congresswoman Barbara Lee in that conversation I had with her, she was so casual. She was like, you know, I'm the one who got the Black Panthers to do her field organizing in Northern California. And I took you, if you knew, to Diane Carroll's house to meet her for the first time. And that's where I met Maxine Waters for the first time. You were among Black royalty. How dare you be casual about this? She said, you're the first person to ever ask me for a follow-up interview on this. I have shared this story tens of times over the years. But no reporter, no documentarian has ever asked me for a follow-up. That's when I knew I had to do something.
How do you feel?
It's surreal. It's lovely. I'm proud of this book. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of every person who picks it up and reads it. And I hope they feel some of the magic that I felt while researching and writing it. So it's surreal.
I love it. It's such a gorgeous book.
Thank you.
You open the book talking about, you give a dedication. And you thank your granddad and you thank your niece, Amaya.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Amaya is the youngest person in your family. Is that correct? Got it. You thank those two people. And what I love about that is, you know, for people in our age group, you sit in an interesting space, right? Where we are talking to people who are our elders now, who raised us, like your granddad and our moms and our dads. And, you know, these are people who lived through apartheid in America, right? And, you know, their stories matter. We're trying to collect them. And so I thought it was beautiful because you started off talking about your granddad and how your granddad influenced your critical consciousness, which we'll come back to. But then you dedicated to your niece and you say that you guys are like the bookends, right, of my life. And I think that's such a beautiful thing because the intersection is like being able to reach back to the past, but also making sure that, you know, the future is as bright as it can be, as thoughtful as it can be. So I love the way that you just opened the book in general.
Yeah.
But who we get our critical consciousness from is really important. And I'm always interested in Black folk who really love Black folk down. Like, I'm like, how'd you get there, right? It is a privilege to be around Black people who love Black people. Your granddad, as you note in the book, is that person for you. Can you tell us about him? And can you tell us about your work and how he shaped your work?
I love that we're starting here because 2 days ago, I did a book talk in Atlanta, and this is where he lives. He's 91 now, and I got to see him and spend time with him again as well. And he's one of the adults in my life who was not a parent, who nurtured me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when both of my parents were active duty, deployed with the Navy, we lived with my grandparents.
Yeah.
He's the type of man, and I guess I'm the type of granddaughter who would scream and demand his attention to the point where he would come home from work, drop his briefcase, come pick me up out of my crib, and hug me before kissing my grandmother on the cheek, which I'm sure she was like, y'all are both too much. Y'all are both doing too much. But that transitioned into early morning conversations. He was always up when I woke up, when we would visit throughout my childhood. And we would sit and he would challenge my ideas, challenge what I was learning in school in these conversations and these sunrise chats. And he's someone who I felt safe enough to explore ideas with. Again, it's important that he was not my parent because having that outlet separate and apart, knowing that he wasn't judging me throughout was important for me. And as I grew, he was one of the few people who cheered me on when I made big pivots. Whether that's, okay, I'm going to change my major summer before senior year of college and like just figure that out. He's like, if you like
Do
it,
it.
I love it.
Yeah.
When I went through massive relationship transformations and getting out of toxic, harmful situations, he's like, baby, you're the only one who wake up as you.
Period. Yeah.
And knowing that he would always be that resource, knowing that in that same house, there was a binder of images of patients from the Tuskegee experiment.
Yeah.
Where he would process and approve their medical claims throughout the 60s. And I stumble upon this binder and he's like, put that back. Right?
Yeah.
Knowing that every time I spoke to him, I was speaking to living, breathing Black history.
Yeah.
Someone who was born in 1933 in a mud floor shack on the side of the railroad tracks in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I felt, well, he instilled in me this responsibility to not only learn from him, but to pass it forward. And so that's why I include my niece
Yeah.
in that dedication, because I do feel that responsibility. I felt that
Yeah.
responsibility heavily with writing and researching this project. I wanted to not only give readers, especially older readers, a sense of nostalgia for the women that they know in Shirley Chisholm and Diane Carroll, but a sense that it was still connected to today and still had value today. And so he was the driving force in that. And so the day I got my, what are they called? You know, the advanced reader copies.
Yeah.
I flew to Atlanta. I was like, Granddad, it's here. And he's like, what? So it's here. What's going on? And he pulls out this massive, you know, magnifying glass with a light on it so he can read the print, the small print. And he started to cry.
Wow.
Because he said, I never could have imagined that I would produce or contribute to producing someone like you.
Yeah.
In this time.
Yeah.
Who was touching the hymns of history.
Yeah.
In the research that I did and the work that I documented. And it's deeply fulfilling to be able to not only share that with him, but also with my niece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Really, yeah. Period. Yeah. I think one of the things that I've been thinking about as of lately is what it means to be like an adult or grown. And it's so hard. Like it's really the ghetto. Like
it is the worst hood. The worst. Do not recommend.
Do not recommend. But it is so hard.
Yes, it is.
And I think now, you know, there's so much weight, right? I was up at 2 a.m. like a couple of weeks ago, and not to make this my Moesha journal moment.
No, come on.
You know, like I was up at 2 a.m. and I was telling my friend DR, who's in the audience, that I've been obsessed. I get obsessed with different talks. So I'll like spend a month watching bell hooks, and then spend a month watching all the talks of Toni Morrison, and then spend a month, you know, like, and just like have them playing in the background. So as of lately, I'm obsessed with Saya Sanchez.
Okay.
And in one of her talks, there's a woman, Elsa, who I think is the niece of Angela Davis, after my little researching. But she opens it by saying, you know, we are learning how to walk in your footsteps, right? And I just cried. It was like 2 a.m. I was by myself and I was just like, we are learning. We are trying. It is so hard. And it's hard, right? Because like my grandmother has always held it, or my mom has held it, or my aunties have held it. And now people are like, we're older. They're leaving us, right? And sometimes that's physically, sometimes it's not, right? Like sometimes it's mentally, but like it's for us to take on. And sitting at this intersection is exciting, right? But it's also heavy.
Well, you said it already.
Yeah.
I said when you talked about my granddad, for example, being someone who grew up in apartheid.
Yeah.
We are going back there.
Yeah.
We are experiencing
and
that
having
now.
to gear up for the fight, right? Like in a place where we haven't quite been in the same way, right? And having to gear up for that. And it is just heavy. And I was like, I began to think about it and I was like, well, does it have to be as heavy as it's appearing on the surface, right? Because we have so many blueprints. And I think what I love the most about your book, right, is that you illuminate a blueprint. You go back and get a story that was in many ways obscure, right? Like the majority of us have heard of Shirley Chisholm. And we know that, you know, she was trying to be president. We know all the things, right? But you kind of zoomed in, right, after talking to Congresswoman Barbara Lee on a particular story about a party that you didn't have to. And it's an interesting thing because people don't always take parties as like a serious thing.
Yes.
Right. But I think there's a lot of things that have been won in the midst of creating intentional Black joy. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, she kind of notes this party, right? And you kind of decide to dig in there. I want to know why that was of so much interest to you, one. And we'll get into like the blueprint things. I have questions around that, but just like, why was that the thing that kind of like set you off, right?
It wasn't originally what I was supposed to write about.
Yeah.
Like originally back in when I first started outlining in early 2021, it was about, I was focused on Chisholm's 1968 congressional run.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody knows about the presidential run. Nobody knows about what she endured in her congressional run.
Yeah.
Or as a congresswoman.
Yeah.
I think that's far more interesting. But then I started interviewing people who'd worked with her. I'd started my research and digging and probing. And the thing that struck me about Congresswoman Barbara Lee in that conversation I had with her, she was so casual. She was like, I'm the one who got the Black Panthers to do her field organizing in Northern California. I said, what? And then she's like, oh, yeah. And I took Huey P. Newton to Diane Carroll's house to meet her for the first time. Oh, and that's where I met Maxine Waters for the first time. I was like, what? You can't. I screamed and she just laughed at me. She was like, that's just what it was like working for Shirley. I was like, but you got to understand, like, that's like,
major.
That's Black history. And I was like,
Black royalty is your grandfather.
As my granddad said, you're among Black royalty. How dare you be casual about this? And so a couple of months later, after I went back for the follow-up interview, she said, you're the first person to ever ask me for a follow-up interview on this. I have shared this story tens of times over the years, but no reporter, no documentarian has ever asked me for a follow-up.
Yeah.
That's when I knew I had to do something. That's when I knew I don't want this to be lost to lore of Black history, a story that's told as like, oh, guess there's this one time. Like, I knew I wanted to document it because, one, I could not imagine all these people in this room, y'all, like, every nugget in my research revealed something new that just prompted me to ask, why were you there? Like the image of Berry Gordy wrapping up Diane Carroll in a bear hug, planting a massive kiss on her cheek. I was like, bro, you literally spent the previous year trying to block the best protest album of all time. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On? Like, why would you now go to support a woman who represents everything about bucking norms and systems and protesting? Goldie Hawn, Oscar award-winning actress who had been blatantly out on the campaign trail for Senator George McGovern, said he's the only one who has a vision for this country. Now she's showing up?
Yeah.
I said, I wanted to document, and I was intentional about documenting it in this way because I know my niece doesn't know about these people or the significance that they have, but I know my granddad would read this and feel deep memories and nostalgia of what he watched and witnessed throughout his life. And so I think that's what lit the fire in me, like knowing I didn't want this to just be a story that I told somebody or Congresswoman Lee told me that didn't ever get the respect and documentation that it deserved. Like someone like Diane Carroll deserves to be documented. Somebody once said, well, why can't I find out any of her political activism on her Wikipedia page? I was like, bro, come on. She did it though.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do her justice. I wanted to do Chisholm justice and explore her humanity in a new way, because what I fear is that much of the world knows of her as a strong woman who pushed through and fought through no matter what. She hurt. She cried.
She cried all the time.
All the time. She was like, they don't understand me. Why are they coming for me?
Yeah.
I'm here fighting in the name of the people. What's wrong with that? She also ignored her own humanity multiple times.
Yeah.
In terms of her health and well-being, to the point where her husband was like, friend, I think you got something going on. And it was a malignant tumor that she had to have surgically removed, right? Like that is something that I wanted to reveal in a new way, not just through the abuses she faced, but in who she was as a human being.
Yeah. I think something that is so interesting about Diane Carroll is that we know her for being kind of like, you know, actors and actresses, whether they like it or not.
Right.
We would just call them by, like, no one ever calls them by their actual name.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you are just like whatever show or movie it's like Rudy. It's like, her name is not Rudy. Y'all need to stop that. You know, like, it's just like, we just do that. And so it's hard because you never quite get to know the actual person all the time because you are looking at them as like the person that you saw on TV or the movie.
Right.
So for Diane Carroll, for me, Eve's Bayou is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, yes.
And so I consistently see her as that image.
With the white face.
Which is insane. With the white face, like, always be that way. Like, it's just so crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I just see her as that. You know? For some of my friends, they're like, oh no, we know her from, I think it was a Dynasty, you know?
Yes.
And they know her for like shading about that champagne and the caviar and the whole thing.
For my niece, it was a different world. She's like, that's Whitley's mama. I'm like, yeah.
You're like, yes. You're like, yes. And so I do think it's interesting. You know, I've always been obsessed with, and the thing that I love the most about this book is there are these women throughout history that people have tried to make kind of like just these like sexualized, beautiful people, right? You have Halle Berry like a few months ago. She was like, I would like for someone to know me as something else other than pretty.
Please.
You know?
Can we?
And it's just, I always think that it is so interesting, women who kind of yield that power. Because, you know, Barry Gordy wasn't just there because he was trying to fight people. Like, I mean, Diane Carroll's it. She was it. And he was like, yeah, I'm trying to be in Diane's face.
Did I?
So like, you know, he wasn't, maybe not like that, but like,
no,
I mean,
like
she's
that,
gorgeous.
like
I would want to be in Diane's face. I'd be like, hi, Diane. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it was like that. And so it is really interesting, you know, the Dianes, the Lena Hornes, the Josephine Bakers, right? These very gorgeous women who kind of yield their power for good, right? Who are like, I'm going to stand at the intersection of being like, and you don't see them being the organizers and strategists that they are, but they are, right?
Right.
And they kind of catch you off guard.
Yeah.
And I love that Diane decided to kind of pull together this group and have this party and have so many different people from all walks of life. I mean, we love Huey P. Newton now and think of him and revere him. It's my Aquarian brother. It is our season, but that's not the point. I won't get off of track. But, you know, and we revere him now, right? Yeah. But like, honestly, back then people were like, those people are different than us. They got guns and they're trying to do the most. And I'm saying this, and my mom was a Panther.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, people were not really messing with them like that. It was like taboo to be on that side of things. And Barry Gordy very much so represented in many ways like an institution, right? He's like, Marvin Gaye, I don't want you to make your songs just look cute, be sexy. Don't come out here talking about what's going on. What's going on is these songs where you sexy. What you talking about? Like, you know, like, it's like, you know, but she kind of yielded this power to bring together this group. And I just wonder, like, what are the lessons for us, right? In a world where people are trying to make women, and particularly Black women, just like, you know, Jezebels and sapphires and kind of like caricatures of ourselves where we're not seen as fully human beings. As human beings, someone could look at Diane Carroll and not see her as a full human being because she has this beauty that they like see her as an object, right? And everything is happening right now to try to move the legislation and the politics to make us these objects. What is it that we can learn, from this relationship?
I think two things that jump out, especially between Diane Carroll and Shirley Chisholm, is the willingness to be the first follower. As well as the intention behind the scenes as you're wielding that power. So on the intention, yes, we know Diane Carroll for these big roles. Dominique Devereaux, she went in there saying, I want to be the first Black bitch on television. So disabuse yourself of any limitations you think you can place on my character. And in fact, write her as a white man. That's how she went into that role.
Yeah.
Similar to Julia, the hit show that, let's be real, was a massive part of her crossover cultural appeal. She would strike lines from the script that she was like, this is a harmful stereotype. We're not talking about that. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
You will not let the lead doctor character talk to the nurse this way. Like, respect it. And she would be intentional behind the scenes so that when she did perform in the show and she did create that kind of cultural gravitas and pull audiences in, it was on her terms.
Yeah.
That behind the scenes work is critical because she doesn't get credit for co-writing any of those episodes. Yeah. She doesn't get credit for making directorial decisions, but she did.
Yeah.
So in movement work and organizing work, working behind the scenes without credit is a big, big part of that work too. Yeah. And the other part about being the first follower, Diahann Carroll hosted this party at a moment when Shirley Chisholm was being clowned.
Yeah.
In the press. Mm-hmm. When they decided to cover her, they would diminish this as an egotistical exercise, a jut-jawed effort by her colleagues, especially members of the Congressional Black Caucus at the time, who wouldn't waste an opportunity in an interview with Jet Magazine or the New York Times to mock her.
Yeah.
They said, what do you think of Shirley Chisholm's run? Who is she? I don't know her.
Yeah.
Like, the disrespect was blatant. But Diahann Carroll stepped up, used her star power to get positive press coverage, quotes in the LA Times about she believes in what Shirley Chisholm could do for this country. That prompted the viewers of Julia, her fans from theater and plays like No Strings, to pay attention in a way they hadn't before.
Yeah.
That was powerful because she was that visible public follower.
Yeah.
And so when there is someone that you see, whether it's community work or local politics, that you believe has something, be willing to be that first follower. Be willing to step out there with them when no one else is, because that is what will sustain them and help them push forward. But also opening your network, right? Like the fact that she could make that call.
Yeah.
The fact that she could call Flip Wilson and say, come on over. Of course, it helped that her ex-husband was his manager at the time. So it was literally like in the family.
Yeah.
But what she did was open the door so that Shirley Chisholm could make the case. And after she made her case to Flip Wilson, he wrote a check.
Yeah.
Breaking his own rule to never publicly support a political candidate. So I think it's about that first follower and the behind the scenes work that we can truly learn from.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to talk about Shirley. And I think that, I call her Sora Chisholm because I'm a Delta.
I appreciate that
very much.
Yes.
But for the sake of this, we'll call her Shirley Chisholm. I think that when you talk to people who know of her, they know her through her slogans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unbought and unbossed.
Yep.
And
they don't bring a seat. Give you a seat at the table.
Bring a folding chair. And the folding chair sends me. Because I have a friend. Now.
There's some
I was like, that's Shirley calls it.
What'd I say?
You said that? Because Shirley called it. And I always think of that, like just the Montgomery bra and the folding chair. And I was like, well, sometimes you do have to bring a folding chair.
Yes, you do.
My friend has a little necklace and it has a little folding chair on it. And our friend Amber, and it's so funny and it moves. Like you'll be like, what is this? And it'll pop up and folds. And I'm like, Amber, you are so what is this?
Can I ask Amber for the earring set?
I would love
the earring set.
I would text you the thing. I looked it up. I said, Amber, this little folding chair was expensive. I thought you got this off Etsy. She was like, Etsy? I was like, girl, what? She's like, you were so offended. Like, what? Anyway, it's a great necklace.
I love it.
It's a lady who you can buy them for like $300, $400, any necklace.
An investment piece.
And she gives it to organizations like nonprofits. So you can write the nonprofit you want it to go to. And then she donates the whole thing to that nonprofit. It actually is kind of cool. So, it's sweet. But anyway, she has this folding chair. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, how did Shirley Chisholm know that the folding chair was going to be like our unofficial mascot?
She called it. She called it. Ahead of her time.
She knew all the things. But she did kind of, have that energy, right? Like she had the vulnerabilities, but, she was kind of the definition of when Audre Lorde talked about being intentional and unafraid, right?
Yes.
And doing it scared anyway and showing up with that energy and telling women to show up with that energy. One of my favorite clips is, when she's like, you do the work,
women, you better wake up.
You better wake up, and it's so true. And, I'm just like, wondering, how do you feel in this moment, right? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who are like backing away from, they're calling it DEI, but it really just means Black.
Even
you know what I mean? And brown. Are white,
women,
white.
Yes,
and so it's, but that it is code, right?
Yes.
And there are words that are like that. Sometimes people use community and you're like, do you mean Black? You know, like, what are these words we're
Right.
using, right? And she was someone who stood up to the occasion and was shunned, right?
Yeah.
Which you talk about in the book.
Yeah.
She was shunned by tons of Black men.
Yep.
She was, of course, shunned by the white community, right?
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, like, in this moment where people may be pulling back from doing things that advance our community, right? What are some of the things from Shirley Chisholm that you've garnered from your research that can help us, like, stand in our resolution? Resolution and our revolution.
The first thing that comes to mind is be ready to welcome them back when the light clicks back on for them. And that's hard because I think I see, hold on.
Now you leave the light on.
It's like, it's multi-tiered. It's tiered with, I'm sure y'all seen all the headlines post 2024 election about Black women taking a rest period.
Yes.
So that's some welcome them back when they're ready. I also see people who are flipping out after every executive order, realizing that, oh, this is going to impact me. Oh, you're going to take away my SNAP benefits. Oh, you're going to eliminate positions that were for civil servants in the federal government.
Yeah.
Staying open enough, because that's exactly what Chisholm was attempting to do with the coalition she was attempting to build, as imperfect as it was. And she knew it was imperfect.
Yeah.
And she accepted that imperfection all under the guise of returning power to the people when they were ready.
Yeah.
The most heartbreaking part of this book and the reality of her campaign is she knew she was never going to win. But she felt the need to be the one to break the ice first. Yeah. She felt the need to get the cuts and the scrapes and the bruises so the people could come after her. Like, and I'm talking about some of the same people who shunned her, like Jesse Jackson when he ran in 84 and 88, right? Like, like,
don't get me started on Jesse.
Like,
I'm a too.
It's that. And sadly, I think that's part of the self-sacrifice of being a Black person and a woman in this country.
Yeah.
But I also think one thing that she did not master that we can all learn from is to pause.
Yeah.
And to rest. Now, she did talk about how she leaned on the arts and poetry as a guiding light. And she also leaned on young people as a guiding light. One of the things that I found most heartening from my research was it was a group of middle school students who challenged her to think beyond her leadership. She was a freshman congresswoman at the time. And they were like, are you going to run for Senate? And she was like, she hesitated. I'd never seen her lose her pace in speaking before. And then I found this interview where she was like, I mean, sure. Like, that's the thing. It was also young people who recruited her to run for president. The students are like, when are we going to break this tradition of only white men leading this country? And she would laugh and say, I'm Black and a woman. So, and they're like, but we're voting soon. With the new constitutional amendment, 18 to 20-year-olds gain access to the polls. And they're like, we'll back you.
Yeah.
Leaning and working with young people, I think, is the other ingredient here, because I actually sent my niece pages for one of the chapters and she was like, who is this for, Auntie?
Amara, please.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, it's for you, but it's also for the people who don't understand you.
Yeah.
Because in the youth chapter, I do talk about all of the barriers, for example, that Gen Z was born into.
Yeah.
Born into 9/11, born into global recession, born into long-standing global wars and conflict, born into increasing gun violence and losing their lives in some of the safest places, whether that's the grocery store, church, or school.
Yeah.
You have a reason to want to reject everything about this system. You have a reason, and honestly, you should reject every norm about our society at this point. And I appreciate that young people are also the guiding light for Chisholm.
Yeah.
And challenging her own thinking. So I think it's two-pronged. One, be ready to welcome folks back. And two, look to young people for direction.
Yeah.
And get out of their way if you ain't ready.
And get out their way.
And that's honestly, that because they're going to tell you to get out of the way.
Yeah.
But I think we underestimate them at our own peril.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think something that was interesting in the book was that you kind of talk about, VP Harris running. Clearly, I mean, you had to draw the connections. That would just be insane.
Full disclosure. I did finish and submit my manuscript before July 2024.
Yeah.
So the only thing I changed, honestly, was the last few paragraphs in the conclusion. That was it.
Yeah. But you draw the parallels, right? And I really appreciated that you kind of talked about in her trajectory, right? That there are ways in which she evolved and you could see it, right? And, one of my favorite thinkers is Malcolm X, and he's always one of the things that I love the most about him is that he would just make the mistake in front of everybody and be like, I think different now. And that sounds like such an easy thing to do, but it is so hard, especially if you're growing publicly. Yeah. To just be like, I thought that and now I don't, and it's just, I love that about his thought process. And you kind of drew some of those parallels in talking about VP Harris, right? And that she had kind of grown to different ways of which she thought about the world. One of the things that just tickled me the most was the conversation about Sexy Red. So she writes about Sexy Red. And there's a big thing about
in the context of celebrity surrogates,
in the context of all celebrities, right?
And I love Sexy Red.
Yeah,
we vibe.
Same.
Okay.
Same. Living for Sexy Red. And she said something that, tons of people said that, I used to teach and now my students are 31, 32, but I taught them when they were in high school. And, they all said these things that I had to get them together about. And one of the things that they all said was, Trump gave us that money. And I was like, okay. I was like, and you can't be mad because he wanted people to think that, right?
Explicitly.
And so you cannot you can't condemn and be judgmental and be like, why would you think that? Why wouldn't you think that? That is the whole point of why he signed those checks and did what he did.
Which was an unprecedented. Yes.
And, I was like, yes, she did that. And then I took it a step further and you had clearly turned in your manuscript by the time this happened, But the thing that I thought about that was so interesting that does relate to Shirley Chisholm is that, Sexy Red was one of the first people to come out. And this is before Megan and Glorilla and all of those people performed. She was one of the first people to come out and be like, I'm behind VP Harris.
Yeah.
And a part of that, which she didn't say out loud, but that I put together was that Sexy Red has an interview with Little Uzi.
Okay.
Not Little Uzi. Oh, Lord. I'm getting the children confused.
It's all good.
Aunties.
Okay.
I'm an auntie now. I'm 40 now. You know what I'm saying? I'm 40 now.
But she had an interview. That's what we know.
Little Yachty. It was one of the littles. Okay. It's Little Yachty. She has an interview with Little Yachty. I'm not going to do Uzi. Uzi would never talk to us. Uzi's like, I'm on a whole nother planet and I would never talk to y'all. But Little Yachty had an interview with her and he asked her yo, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you? And she was, he was joking around and she was like, oh, I was raped once. Right? And she said it real kind of not casual, but it was
matter of fact.
She was like, this is the craziest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, it wasn't supposed to be that deep. And they kind of laughed. Right. And I imagine, right, that when she understood completely what VP Harris was really saying when she was like, it's my body and we should have our choices, that we should have autonomy, right, around how we show up. Her music and what she raps about actually matches that political platform in so many ways. Yeah. And she just kind of needed someone to put it together. And perhaps she put it together herself, right? But she came out and was one of the first people to be like, I'm VP Harris, I'm blue, blah, 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 this and that. And everybody was like, we thought you were for Trump. She was like, whatever, I was just trying to sell my hats. She was in the comments arguing people. She was like, I was just trying to sell my hats. She said, make America sexy again. I was like, sexy, I'm not mad at you because she was trying to sell her hats. But I get it.
Even the endorsement doesn't undo the years of her saying.
It doesn't undo it. But what I thought to myself was, wow, this was what Shirley Chisholm was trying to say, was that we have platforms that don't actually reach certain communities, right? The way that politics rolls, especially, now, but what was illuminated in the book was even then, was that there is kind of a bourgeoisie community around politics 100%. And voting and it does leave out this large group of people, black and white. The majority of people in America are not actually fully literate, right? Yeah. And that's not And that's not a judgment, right? Like it's actually, that's not me being shady, right? I have people in my family who aren't fully literate, right? But it is just a fact, or they're literate in different ways. And I always like to say that Black people learn how to read in different ways. Like we know how to read quilts. We know how to read faces. We know how to read stars.
Body language.
We read all types of stuff. You know what I'm saying? That body language, we read all types of stuff that people could never read the way that we read, right? So there is a different type of literacy, right? But it's not the same, right? As being able to like look and see you on MSNBC and be like, okay, I understand completely what's going on and what's being said. And so I was like, wow, I actually think that if Shirley Chisholm was here, she would have been like, call up Sexy Red. No,
you know what I mean? Dead ass. Yeah.
Tell Sexy Red to come to the party. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
She would have had her in the room.
And you talk about people like Ayanna Pressley and AOC, and I want you to dig into that. You talk about this in the book, right? How they kind of follow her play. Yeah. Of like really engaging the people. And I think that there are parts about VP Harris where there wasn't always that, right? 100%. And that's a whole, this isn't to ding her, right? Like she was, in my opinion, set up to not succeed. And that's a whole nother thing, right? Yes. But like, she kind of followed a different play than I think that Shirley Chisholm would have followed, or that Ayanna followed, or that AOC followed. So can you dig in on that a little bit more?
It's rooted in, I am just a human being.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help the people.
Yeah.
That is the through line between everyone you mentioned.
Yeah.
And having watched Ayanna Pressley's career up close, my friend's her chief and was her campaign manager when she challenged a 10-term incumbent who was like, what are you doing? How dare you break the ranks? Similar questions that were asked of Shirley Chisholm. And she said, you're not giving the people what they need, so I'm stepping in. That was the core of it.
Yeah.
I think Shirley Chisholm will look at Vice President Harris and say, I'm immensely proud of her for stepping up with this, 107-day effort that she was handed, which was kind of bootleg and raggedy, but she stepped into it unexpectedly. But she should have been more authentic.
Yeah.
She should have shown more of her humanity.
Yeah.
She should have been more honest in connecting with the public. I think that's a reasonable criticism because everyone who you just mentioned, AP, AOC, the leaders, Jasmine Crockett, like whomever.
Yeah.
Like these are people who lead with their humanity on their sleeve.
Yeah.
And lead with community at the forefront. Like one of the things Granddad always told me, it ain't about you. Think beyond you.
Yeah.
Look back, look forward, but do not center on yourself because that is the fatal flaw. I mean, let's be real. That's why our politics look like it is today. It's egotistical, maniacal individuals leading. But when I think about what you said, Shirley Chisholm would have invited Sexy Red to the party. Absolutely, she would have. Because it's the same reason why Diane Carroll hosted the event for Shirley Chisholm in the first place. She looked at her and she said, I see power. I see possibility. I see future.
Yeah.
I see someone who honestly is a kindred spirit in the way that we are carving our paths and cutting through discrimination, racism, sexism, all the things to create something that is better and believing that there can be better.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. And I think that's one of the marked difference. I think the core of Shirley Chisholm was authenticity. She wasn't mincing her words. She wasn't changing her posture or her tone for anybody.
Yeah.
She wouldn't change it in this room full of stars and music industry icons or for Huey P. Newton.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that he appreciated about her is like, oh, she's gonna listen to us.
Yeah.
The reason she accepted their endorsement, the endorsement of the Black Panthers, was because she said, these are human beings who are American citizens who have a right to engage in political processes at a moment when that's not what the rest of the nation or the world saw them as.
Yeah.
So some people were like, oh, this is risky. She's like, no, it's not. These are people.
Yeah.
And that's the core of it. That's the dividing line. And hopefully that's something we can potentially get back to, demanding from our leaders, because I think about also how Shirley Chisholm moved around this room. Barbara Lee, I was like, did she hide out in the back and make a stump speech like politicians do today? She was like, no. She was literally out there talking to every single person. I was like, when you walked in with Huey P. Newton, like, did they go to the side? She was like, no, they stood by the pool in front of everybody and talked.
Yeah.
Loudly. Like, there was no hiding. So it's authenticity and transparency. Seems really basic, right?
Yeah, but it's hard.
Seems really basic. I think the reason it is hard is because the barriers to entry, like you talked about, the bourgeoisie of politics. Like, that's why the Black Panthers could endorse Shirley Chisholm, because the Black members of Congress rejected her.
Yeah.
Publicly. Tried to sabotage her campaign, went to outlets saying she's an ineffective congresswoman.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Y'all just really that mad that it's a Black person who's a woman running? And of course, it came from the white feminist side too. Like, I have this image of Shirley Chisholm sitting next to Gloria Steinem doing an interview, and Shirley Chisholm's just like very rigid and her back's tight because Gloria Steinem's saying, yeah, she's the best woman in this race, but I'm also supporting Judge McGovern because he's the best man in this race. And it's like, friend, where's the feminism? Like, where's the line? Clearly there's a line.
You were like, oh, did we leave it at home today?
Because they picked and chose. But also that's down to the fractures of, yes, women wanted a woman to run for president. They just didn't want a Black woman to run for president. So that's some of the same fractures we're witnessing today.
That's the same.
Honestly, every time I would find something in my research or continue drafting, I'd be like, damn, they should change.
Yeah.
Like, repeatedly. Like, so much has, but so much hasn't. And we are regressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you about something that's like a little spicy.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a step. Go ahead.
It's a little spicy. You know, when VP Harris was in her campaign, I was at my friend Cleo's house and a friend came to visit and she brought her girlfriend. Okay.
And we're not naming names.
No,
I'm
love them both.
I'm joking.
I love them both. They're both great. But her girlfriend, we got into a conversation about Black American people. And I said, you know, I'm actually a bit frustrated because as a Black American, right, who grandparents helped literally build this country. Like, this is our country. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'm like a little frustrated that the Black people who run for president do have like these different backgrounds in a way. Because there's still another lens that we're working through, right? And to be a Black American is a very unique place to sit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, who's a Black American? Like, like she was offended because she's Caribbean. Okay, so let's just.
Okay.
She was like, who's a Black American? I was like, girl, what you mean who's a Black American? Girl, me girl. You know, like, I was like,
here's the thing. I appreciate it so much because I had to make the conscious decision to use Black instead of African American while writing this book.
Yeah. And they be trying to make the B little. I was like, no, but no, it's because of respect of my B and make it big. This is the other thing of the B, but like make it big, you know? So that to me, you know, and so we got into a thing and she was like, well, who's a Black American? Like, is Beyonce a Black American? I was like, you know that Beyonce that told your people from Louisiana, Alabama, you know that she's Black American. We're not going to do this. You're just offended that I said that, but it's real.
Yeah.
And there have been Caribbean people in particular that I think have pushed forward, or people who have Caribbean descent, right? That have really pushed us forward. I think Marcus Garvey is in that. Clearly Malcolm X is in that.
Yep.
Kwame Ture. Kwame Ture is in that. And Shirley Chisholm is in that. And she actually brought her up. She was like, what about Shirley Chisholm? I was like, she's not a Black American, but I was like, but Shirley Chisholm was about us though.
Here's the thing. I love the distinction because I look at her childhood.
Yeah.
She spent 6-7 years on a farm in Barbados with her grandparents and her aunts and cousins.
Yeah.
I'm talking wake up 5 o'clock, milk cows, go feed the chickens, then go to school in a 1-room building with 125 other kids. But that's where she says she fortified this sense of self.
Yeah.
That prompted her to never shrink. That's the defining line to what you're discussing. Growing up in a community where everybody looks like you, from the judges, doctors, leaders, and teachers, everybody does. And they're telling you, you're powerful.
Yeah.
Your identity has power.
Yeah.
You have abilities. You're capable. So she brings that back to Depression era US, and her teacher don't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
She's so bored in class, she's shooting spitballs across the room. And then they realize, oh, she's advanced. Oh, we need to satiate her academic appetite. We need to do more for her.
Yeah.
But I think that's explicitly the defining line, and why she can walk into Congress where a member of Congress is pretending to spit on her every day when she walks past. She's like, what's wrong with this man? He got tuberculosis? He okay?
And then she conked back at him?
No, she
She
into
split back
her
at
head
her
her
thing.
thing. Was like, beat you to it today.
Yeah.
Like, she knew. She was never afraid.
Yeah. But it is a hard thing to break. Like, there are
Yeah.
so many Caribbean and African people that are anti-Black. Like, it just
100%.
there are so many people in the world. I mean, we saw this with the Latino vote, and this is no shade to the Latinos, but, you know, like, people be anti-Black. You know? So it's like, to break out of that, to be able to say, like, because there are people who are anti-Black and then hide under the guise of Blackness. They're like, oh, I'm Black. And it's like, no, but you're anti-Black as well. You're Black and anti-Black.
And it shows.
And she was able to kind of like say, okay, I'm going to skip all over this. And I actually respect these people.
Yes.
The reason she's able to have a conversation with Huey P. Newton is because there was a genuine respect of, right, like the organizing and the love that, because there was a lot of love in the Panther Party, and that's just a whole nother, you know, thing that isn't always shown through.
And also the awareness of what it feels like to be rejected by people who look like you.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Because that's something the Panthers navigated. That's something that Diane Carroll navigated. That's something that Chisholm, it's a through line.
Yeah.
All of these individuals had been rejected in one form or another by a community that they assumed would hold them close.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you're pointing this out, because it's important to understand that that was a conscious decision.
Yeah.
That not many Black people were making.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not spicy at all.
It was a little spicy because people get, you know, dicey around that. They're like, oh, you talking about us? Yeah, we are. We are. My last question before we go into Q&A.
Yep.
Your niece, Amaya,
Mm-hmm.
as she reads this book, I'm sure she'll, you know, if she hasn't already gotten into it, she'll get into it for sure. She'll read it again and again over time, right? Like, my aunt isn't here. I didn't know her very well. She died when she was 48. But she has all of these articles on her that I found. And she was just like such a beautiful, fascinating woman who ran book clubs and started a Black ski club and just all of these phenomenal things.
Fabulous.
She was fab.
Yeah.
She's Aquarian too. Not to make it about us, but it is our season. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, she was fab. And so she's going to look to you, right? She's going to look to you in the flesh, but she's also going to look to you in this book and say for the moment that she represents like our youth, our future.
Yeah.
Right? Top 3 things you want Amaya to take away from this book.
Honestly,
either about you or about Shirley Chisholm or Diane or the era, right? What are the top 3 things you're like, I want you to take these away with you?
Number 1, we're all just humans and we're all faking it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace. Give each other grace. That's absolutely, and that's a lesson I'm still trying to learn myself.
Yeah.
Number 2, community is the only way forward. We will not survive unless we come together, y'all. And I'm not saying that like, can we all just get along around the queue? I'm talking about like the truly. I mean, I'm saying see humanity in each other. Yeah. See value in each other. Even people you don't like. And the third, learn from the past. Yeah. There's so much wisdom, so many lessons. And I hope reading this only sparks something, a desire to explore more. You know, so the way I structure the book, I have an opening quote that kind of sets the tone for each chapter. Read those people. Yeah. Let that be a launching point. Learn more stories. I mean, that's honestly the impetus for my next projects, right? Like, in my research, I read about Harry Belafonte and how he'd welcome Martin Luther King Jr. to his New York apartment and they would stay up all night drinking rum and King would mark the bottle like it was his own, like, don't touch my stuff. Like that type of relationship. Or how Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier took a bag of tens of thousands of dollars down to Mississippi after the 3 voting rights activists were murdered. Yeah. And the movement was being depleted because everyone was too afraid to give and support. So they flew from New York with this bag of about 60 G's. The pilot dropped them off and then took right back off. They raced their car to this high school gymnasium where they performed well into the night.
Yeah.
Rejuvenating these organizers, rejuvenating these activists. So I hope the third thing is take the seeds and keep digging, because the roots go beyond this.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I know she's going to also take away that my auntie is a badass.
Oh.
And we thank you for seeing our stories, right, as Black women worthy of honor and record.
Thank you, darling. Thank you for this
your work.
conversation.
Thank you. Q&A. Yes.
Hi.
So you mentioned young people.
Yeah.
I teach at an HBCU in New Orleans, Xavier University.
Yeah.
34 years.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It has changed.
Yeah.
In all good ways.
You also in your 100th year right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So interestingly, you talk about young people, and just this afternoon, I told two of my students that I was coming to listen to you, and that I had come to this bookshop before when Joy Reid was here.
Oh, yeah.
Medgar and Murney.
Yeah.
They did not know who Medgar Evers was.
Yeah.
Now, I'm this immigrant who grew up elsewhere and has been here for 38 years. I make it my business to go to the Museum of African American History and ask this stuff. How do we get the younger generation to even know and care if all we do is social media? When the Montgomery thing happened, the next day I got a t-shirt. When the hat goes up, the chair comes down.
Oh my God. Okay, I love that t-shirt. I need to know where I can look.
I could biracial, half Indian, half German self is flashing this in school very proudly. All the older people knew, the younger people did. It just happened and put on social media.
Right.
So I'm just wondering what we can do. And I talk about it.
Yeah.
And again, when I talk about it, I'm not Black, so then I'm not whining.
Right.
Ally.
Right.
He said that Black people loving Black people is good. I think non-Black allies loving Black people is even better. I mean,
I don't know even
The better.
We can say
The
it's
better.
also good.
It's also good.
You said we should welcome them back. I'm trying very hard not to demonize the other side. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But then I try to think, okay, we're going to have to welcome him back one day. And so when you think everyone owns a piece of the truth, if you can really believe that for a minute and see the value even in those people, coming here amongst us, I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel solace.
Yeah.
Then I'm among normal, intelligent, smart, sweet people. Then you go, and then you see this crap. Anyway, that's it.
I appreciate you so much. And you'll note that when I say a lot of the things I said this evening, I said, I'm still struggling with that too. 100% struggle with it. But in terms of the young people, so y'all know Shirley Chisholm was an educator. She started in early education. Young people, got her master's at Columbia, teachers college.
Yeah.
Like she literally said the prescription. It's going to take inculcation, reorientation, and education. Inculcation is, of course, teaching through repetition. Reorientation, shifting the framework, but also education. I think she fully meant K through 12. K through 12 investments at a moment when the current administration is looking at ending the Department of Education. At a moment when K through 12 school systems across the country are underfunded. That's the battle.
Yeah.
Access to knowledge and teachers like yourselves who are willing to give of themselves to implant that into young people. That is the barrier. You mentioned literacy rates. I think the national literacy rate is 71%. But even of that, that's at like a 6th grade level.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Education is the core of it. I wouldn't try to pry them away from social media. But there's value in these tools, y'all. I just use it for little exactly. And we saw it as Hillman Talk, like taking over. Like there's still value. I think understanding the tools that they're drawn to, but K through 12 education is invaluable. Early ed, pre-K education is invaluable.
But they're back in these books now. So where did they just find out the history?
Us.
Yeah. Can I hop in?
Yes,
and
please.
Part of it?
Please.
So I co-lead an organization called Black Education from New Orleans. Thanks, y'all. Period. And so I wanted to hop in because it's specifically a conversation around education. one, I just have to keep it real. Like, education is so boring.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who also lives like in an artist world, I go to these things that people who are artists are putting on. I'm like, wow. Like, I learned so much, right? Because they are curating a world for you to kind of be that's immersive for you, right? That is an experience. And then when I go to like things that people are doing for education, I'm like, child, we're here doing another lecture. This don't even match the vibe of the world. You know what I mean? Like, it actually is so boring and so antiquated. And I just like, it makes me wonder, like, you can just get caught up in listening to Nina Simone talk all the time just because of the kind of way that she moves through pronouncing her words. And, and she's also just a crazy Pisces, which is no shade to Pisces, but, they live in their own world. You know what I mean? And so, but one thing that she always talks about is making, a revolution irresistible. And I do think that we have to move back to making education irresistible. And, some of the things that I think that we've thought about education is we've kind of let these systems take over, right? And so the parents also feel like, I send my kids to school or they're going to college, the school and the people there are responsible for it. When really, like, so many of us learn, like, I talk about this all the time, but my mom would send me to the library, and going to the library was like my babysitter. Yeah. And there were a whole bunch of other people there. Yep. And I was like, where are all y'all moms? And we used to be eating pizza and shit. I'm sorry, we're on camera. We used to be eating pizza. You know what I mean?
About the booking program.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, we have a whole generation of people that we just learned outside of, and the parents didn't know what we were doing. They didn't care. They were just like, girl, you all right? The librarian's watching you. You got books there. So good job. You know what I mean? And we're just all there reading a little book, learning, just competing against each other. And, but a lot of that, so much of that is fun. And I think about all of the people, like, we were having a good time. And I think about how many people have learned outside of the four walls of our classroom. There's schooling and then there's education, and education is everywhere. And I really do think we have to kind of move back to a space where we are actually leaning in and saying, how can we host some of these book clubs? Like, we have a great book. I'm going to host something at my house. I'm going to cook, right? Bringing back, like, when we think about communal communication, the root of that is community. And I think we focus so much on being unified that we don't actually lean into community. And community can mean you think totally different than me. Right. That's bell hooks. That's her idea of communion versus unity, right? And so unified, like, you may not roll how I roll, right? But we're all here to learn something new. We're all here to, like, be educated and to learn a new thing. And I think we too tightly hold for that to being in our institutions, when our institutions are unfairly, pushed to do things that they don't want to do, right? Yeah. Like, you can't read this book. You can't do that. But why can't you read it at your home? I was reading something the other day where the guy who runs, I think, Turkey and Wolf, which is a restaurant here, love them. They got a collard green situation. I'm very interested. I never thought I'd be eating collard greens with white folk like that, but it's the collard green situation. He ate that. He did that. But he's like, I've been hosting this thing at my house. And also, Kelly's here from Homecoming. Hi, Kelly. Hi. She runs Homecoming. But, he hosts this thing where he's like, people just come and they eat red beans on Monday and we just hang out, and Kelly actually hosted, they do red beans on Tuesday, which I love. But, and my co-leader, Dren, was recently there kind of sharing about education in our work. But I love the idea of that, right? Just leaning in. And so when you're going to all these places, I'm sure you try to invite them and that type of thing, but just like make it irresistible. We're going to go, then we're going to eat after, then we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, education should be that, and it should be fun. Like, we all love reading Rainbow because they made it an experience. Yeah. Like, you could just like, do Shaka Khan, come on. You like, Shaka Khan, you know what I mean? and it's like, Shaka Khan is here. It's like, it should feel that way. And it doesn't feel that way. It feels so doomy and gloomy and sad. And, it does. It just, who would want to do it? Who would want to do it? And so it's just, we have to make it that again. So, this is the perfect book, I think, to do that because it's spicy. It like shares, the book shares like all of these things that you feel like you're in a side conversation that you shouldn't be hearing because your aunties and uncles talking. You're like, am I supposed to know about that? But also it has some real nuggets and some real gems for us to move forward, so it's just, education is boring. Like, we got to break out of it, and we're in it too. And we're also bored. we're bored as the shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have to kind of think about how to break out of it.
Well, I think that to your question earlier about what lit the fire in me is because of that.
Yeah.
Because of those side conversations. Because I knew I wasn't going to write a white paper style book.
Yeah.
I was like, that's dry, and I'm not dry. So like to your point about spice and just energy, like I wanted to drop people in, and I hope that's what you experienced with this book too. And thank you for your words about making education irresistible. That is absolutely right.
Shirley, education is good teaching is 1% preparation and 99% theater.
Yes, performance.
Yeah,
yep.
They have to take Beyonce, then they're gonna use.
Come on, yes.
Our Beyonce ally.
Yes.
Living for you, top of the list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for that. Very sanctuary. I had the pleasure, I guess, of working on Shirley the movie.
You're gonna have to give me the asterisks on the I guess. Okay.
Okay. So John Ridley wrote it. And refresh your memories, John Ridley also wrote 12 Years a Slave, where Peter was left in the dust on that plantation. So I thought that was a very interesting choice.
She got left in the dust on Panther too, on Black Panther. That's the whole nother. She was the smartest person in that movie, and they made her just like a housewife.
Yeah.
So these Black narrators. So now I said, okay.
Next session.
She needs to think about her scripts. Like, Lupita, you got a bunch of scripts.
I remember thinking, why is this movie about Shirley Chisholm so focused on men, the influence of men on her life? So I actually didn't even end up scared. Like, I kept, the changes weren't made, and then they were like, "Dear Tower," and I was like, "Y'all got
too much on TikTok."
But it was her first husband was in it, who she wasn't even married to for that.
No.
And then like all the guys that helped her run her presidential were all like really focused in it.
Yeah.
Then they also had her doing the nasty, which I'm just like, why?
Oh no, thank you.
See, and the Harry Tubman script that I read, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, ain't got. So all that to say, I think like fast forward to a candidate like Kamala Harris, or fast forward to any sort of Black woman candidate, like, do you think sort of like what does like sort of media in Hollywood, like what role are they playing? And even when Black folks get into these roles, because Regina King can be loved, and I will never say anything negative about her. Yeah, was part and parcel of this film. Like, how does this help or hurt sort of the national consciousness around Black women as candidates? Because the things that I'm learning from just even this conversation, like Barbara Lee was like a blip in the Shirley movie.
Yeah. And she was L.A. Jane's arm. She
Yeah.
her right hand,
It's like, but why? So what do you think happened?
Yeah.
And how is that hurting us?
One thing that is truly tragic in media is that it's easy to erase women, and it's doubly easy to erase Black women. And I appreciate you naming Barbara Lee's value, because she's throughout.
She's throughout the book, the whole text.
She literally has her own chapter,
multiple
chapters.
chapters. She's in there.
Because I look at her as my through line.
Yeah.
She's my connection to Shirley Chisholm. She's my connection to her experience as a young mother of two who was on welfare and a student at Mills College when she even invited Shirley Chisholm there. She didn't even know Shirley Chisholm was running for president when she invited her. She just said, "Oh, you're the first Black woman in Congress. I'd love to meet you." She brought the Black Panthers in. She tag teamed with Maxine Waters when they were both in Congress. Like, all of that is the story. Yeah. And all of it is because of her connection to Shirley Chisholm, her reaching out and making that, extending that invitation. So similarly, I didn't watch Shirley for very different reasons. I didn't want it to influence my work and research as I was writing.
Watched Shirley. And the Quincy Jones doc together.
But it's so easy to erase us. And I think even in my current day, in my current media work, I appreciate that I have people like Joy Reid where I can go on. And I was telling you, she gives me space when I'm on camera to express things that I know I'm not going to be able to express with other hosts on the network. That type of sisterhood. Oh my gosh. She's also a Delta. So maybe it's y'all. I don't know. But that type of space, even Diane Carroll, again, stepping up and using her platform to get Chisholm the press coverage, the outlets. I would love to.
She needs to.
I would love to, because there's so much rich history and I don't want it to be lost. I have the research. I have the information. I have the people. Yeah. Like, I would love to bring this to life, to make it irresistible education. Yeah. Like Fight Night on Peacock. Right. Like Fight Night, like One Night in Miami, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's absolutely an avenue to bring this to life in a way that teaches, but also is relatable. Like just imagine the sequence we could do on her walking past that congressman who was pretending to spit on her.
Yeah.
Hold on. The worst part of that, talk about press erasure. When this happened and she spit back at him, the press corps laughed. They were like, oh my God, he got his comeuppance. What that signifies is that they saw him abusing her every day she walked past. They didn't write it. I didn't find a single article about this. And let's talk about journalistic standards associated with covering people of color and Black people and women.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to gloss over that because they don't care. Yeah. They didn't see her humanity. They didn't see the disrespect in a hollowed institution like Congress to feel the need to cover it. So absolutely, I want to bring this to life because that's part of the reorientation. That's part of the inculcation. That's part of the education. That's her prescription. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah.
Were you on Jonathan K-pop too sometimes?
Sometimes. It's been a minute.
And I've seen you on both.
Yeah.
I love you're so articulate.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, please.
So this is a little bit outside of the education piece. So what is your perspective on our culture icons and entertainers that play in shaping the political narratives and both their past and current political climate?
In the past, I gotta say, I think celebrities and entertainers spent a lot more time understanding what they were talking about. I think that was a part of it. That's why you had the Sidney Poitiers and the Harry Belafontes and the Ruby Dees and the Lena Hornes out there.
We need to get into why Sidney and Harry didn't want to date Black women.
Oh, you didn't hear about Sidney and Diane? Hold on.
No, I know, but it was a thing.
Yes, you know? It was a thing. It was very much a thing.
Yeah.
And I think we are right to ask those questions.
We do know they had a little long-standing relationship, and then he didn't leave his wife.
Left her in Paris, baby. He said, meet me in Paris.
At least he left her somewhere
Okay,
fast.
but back to your question.
a lot of people get left a lot where I'm like, well, I'm in Paris. Let's make it do what it do.
But back to your question, I think about the opportunism, right? Barry Gordy, again, I was like, why were you there? But then I think about what you said with Sexy Red being like, I just wanted to sell hats.
Yeah.
There's a through line.
Yeah.
Opportunism, capitalism, all plays a role in it as well.
For sure.
But I think the core of it is knowing what you're talking about, taking the time to do the research and reading and educating yourself before making big statements. I do value learning in public. I do even Sexy Red had another interaction with Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice.
Oh my God. And she was like, sorry.
She's like, my bad. Thanks for telling me.
It's like, but y'all let people run in Atlanta. People in Atlanta have club things. They put chains on Martin Luther King. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, y'all got a rap chain on Martin Luther King. Now it's a thing. You know, she was just trying to say I love him in her own way.
In her own AI generated way.
Read through the Stop. I enable Sexy Red.
You give grace. You give a whole lot of grace, baby.
She was like, I love him.
But I think that's where it is. Feeling the responsibility to fully understand something or even be humanly connected to it. One thing, I did get to interview some of the surrogate staffers from previous campaigns, and they're like, girl, some of these people just coming for a photo op. They're don't even know the candidate's platform.
Yeah.
Committing to interviews and don't know what they're saying. Like the quality of the engagement has shifted to something that's for clout and clicks versus substantively truly believing in a mission. I think that also has to do with the quality of the politicians who are running.
Yeah.
So it's all tied together.
The introduction is really deep as well.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks, y'all, because it's scary putting something out. It's scary, and I appreciate the warm reception. Yeah.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you. You're a delight. Very much. Thank you.